Ginanam. Buenos días, señoritas y señores. Hello,
Hello,
everybody.
everyone.
Yeah, I could say buenos días a todos. I'm better at Spanish than I am German. So, what are you doing? Well, considering that because I had a different last name, which is Basque, and my Spanish teacher thought that I was hiding the fact that I could actually speak Spanish. I didn't even know. I think I knew how to say quesadilla, burrito, taco, that kind of thing. Yeah. She tried to flunk me out of
Hiding
the
that you
class.
can speak a language. What should
Huh?
that be for?
What was
When
that?
you hide in school that you can speak a language, what should that be good for?
An F apparently in the class. I mean, I was doing the work and getting, the good grades on the tests, but she thought that I could actually speak the language and I couldn't.
I mean, that's the kind of weird thing that only a teacher would come up with, isn't it? Like, I think to
Yeah.
be a school teacher, you have to despise children and think the worst of them at all times.
Well,
Oh, it's noble.
the sad part is I never got to take Spanish because my dad came in, and after he was done talking to the teacher, they said I didn't need to take Spanish.
Didn't your dad speak Spanish though? So he could have taught you, but he just didn't.
Well, the reason he didn't teach me Spanish is because my grandfather was born in Mexico. His family had come over from the Basque country, and they weren't shepherds. Imagine that. But sort of. My grandfather became a minister. I guess they were a family of religious people, but um, so he moved up to the States, and he spoke five languages. My grandmother spoke seven, but because the last name was weird and people up here weren't that bright, they thought, and because he could speak Spanish, they thought the little boy was a Mexican. So they didn't want their kids playing with him. So he had that stigma on him. So he didn't teach me Spanish, which would have made a big difference. But that's the way it goes. Um, it would
I
have
mean,
been
if you're
nice to.
gonna be racist, like at least be a clever racist rather than a really thick, ignorant racist.
Yeah, you mean like KK?
Yeah,
He
but
does.
also don't be racist. But I mean,
He's actually speciesist, which is maybe that's not quite as bad, but that's not my species. Get it away from me. I don't want it anywhere near me. Um, so that's why I don't speak Spanish, and I can't do the trilled R. I have a German accent in Spanish, so because I can make the German R, but I can't make the uvular R in Spanish. You got to be trained to wiggle your tongue that way when you're young, right?
yeah.
Isn't that right, Sugar? You have an
Mhm.
opinion on the subject, Sugar? No. Cecil.
Yeah,
He's
Sugar
shoving.
can whine in any language.
Yes, she can. She's good at it, aren't you, Shug? You have an opinion on it, KK?
Do you know, I've had loads of people ask me if I'm all kinds of different nationalities and races. It's quite bizarre. But the funniest one is now that I have a Norwegian surname, people sort of very, very politely ask if I have, oh, do you have Norwegian heritage? And it's like, no, I have a Norwegian husband.
So Is it that people think that in Great Britain or when you were elsewhere?
Well, everything. It's kind of funny, right? Because my daughter has a clearly Norwegian name, so I guess people think, oh, the daughter has a Norwegian name, the mum must be Norwegian, which kind of makes sense, but not quite. Apart from when
Ah,
they think it's a Shetland name, which gets really confusing. So if you're Scottish but from the islands, then you can also have that name, which is a head scratcher. But I've been when I go to Norway, I see it's so confusing, right? Because in Norway they have loads of Thai people, because loads of Norwegian men they get sort of to their 50s and have a crisis and they divorce their
ah,
wives
ah,
and
ah.
then they go to Thailand and get a new wife. So there's lots of Thai women in Norway. So some of the Norwegians thought I was Thai, and then all the Thai women obviously knew I wasn't Thai. But then they asked me if I was Italian. So I was like,
Just say, no, I'm not Thai, but I'd like some Thai stick. Do you have some Thai stick?
it's just so confusing. But I've been asked if I'm Spanish or Italian or Thai or Chinese, if I'm half Chinese, if I'm Portuguese, if I'm Native American. Like I don't know. Yeah. it's
That's
so
what. That's when
so
you use that
confusing.
line. That's when you use that line from Blazing Saddles, right? And you say, "Wait a minute while I whip this out," and you whip out your phone and go, "Here's my DNA test. You want to go through and see what I am?"
I would quite like to do a DNA test. I think it would be interesting, but I'm not paying £200 or however much it is to do that.
Oh, geez, I think it's 60 over here. Not that expensive, but you do find out things that are a little hard to believe. Like I'm 2% Han Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think
six.
there's a margin for error, obviously, but I think I know I have a lot of Celtic and some Saxon and possibly some indigenous Siberian, maybe.
Yeah,
We'll see.
when you go by Stonehenge, you think about sacrificing people. Um,
No, I don't think they do that in Siberia. I could live in a yurt and herd reindeer.
Hmm.
yeah,
I
yeah, I
think
guess you
Sunny would
could.
love it.
Do I do?
She seems to be one that's in for excitement. She'd probably end up fighting a reindeer and winning.
I think she would. I need to sign this girl up for aerobics or calisthenics or something because she can do all the movements.
Let's see what inheritance the birds have. I think Cecil, he has penguin ancestors. Then Miss Shuggy, I think she's a bit flamingo.
Mm.
Maybe just a bit.
And also a bit secretary bird as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit.
Mm.
And Snowball's just a snowball in the desert.
Hmm.
Jasmine, she has a monkey ape for
Yeah.
Yeah.
this since she loves doing the climbing fun thing.
I could see her painted up in like ritual dress and dancing to a djembe, to a native drum. I can see her doing that. Actually,
So
sometimes it looks like she is doing that.
before we go on, we might greet some chatters. So we have White and Blue Scania here. Then Giselle Loves New York is here. So hello and welcome. Carmen Thurston joined us, and Jem and Jamie is here as well. So hello and welcome,
Hi
everybody
everyone.
on the screen
Hello, hello, everybody.
watching us now or maybe later.
And hello to the lurkers as well. So nice
Mhm.
to see everyone, and as usual, don't forget that you can post comments and questions in the chat. If it's a question, then Anne-Marie or I will read it to Don.
Lurkers sounds, you're thinking about that. That sounds almost malignant or something. You could maybe the word voyeur would be better. Hey.
I don't know about that.
Well, Giselle says, I love the history that DNA conjures up. Like, how did that happen? Yeah, that's certainly an interesting field of research.
Well, they've done that on cockatoos too, and they have a pretty solid tree. But if you really want your DNA, make sure your parents are still alive, because if you get your DNA and then you have theirs on both sides, then it's going to be right. I mean, you're gonna get an accurate depiction of where you came from and everything. If it's just you, yeah, there can be some mistakes here and there. But I checked mine, and since the Basque was in there, I pretty much was sure it was right, at least in most cases. But yeah, there's a whole tree of that in I can't think of the name of the book. I have it, but um, let's see, the Life of Parrots or something. But it does have the actual tree on cockatoos, so. And on parrots too, but
Is there also a tree on budgies? Because that would be really interested which species is the most close to them.
they're on the parrot chart for sure. Yeah, I'll see if I can dig it up for you and
Yeah, that would be
send you a
really
copy of it.
interesting.
Yeah, it's there. It's fascinating. You know, you look at like the cockatoos. They all that section broke away from the landmass broke away from Australia, and the cockatoos went one way, and there's still cockatoos, of course, on Australia, but there's a lot of variation after they left, isn't there, guys? There seems to be a bit of variation here too. They don't have XY chromosomes like humans do. They have, or like mammals in general. Their chromosomes are, I forget what they're called, but they're different. Not even sure about the mitochondria. Look into that. No, that's one thing. You have to be a education is a lifelong thing. You have to keep teaching yourself. When you stop learning, well, then you're ready to roll over in the grave.
These guys are learning all the time. Like Cecil. And the
Can't
thing
have
is,
it.
they are natural masters when it comes to ABA because they don't need to be trained. They just get born or come out of the eggshell with the full knowledge of ABA.
Yeah, they seem to. That's what we're going to try to do today is just kind of go over ABA. It's I know it kind of scares people. It's like this big science. What are you doing up there? Big scientific term, but when Skinner came up with, when he started studying, hey, no, you little girl, no, don't do it. Jasmine, leave him alone. He's getting territorial about Pippa's old cage. We had a donation that allowed us to buy Pippa another cage like the one that KK got. So that I didn't have any other place to put this cage, but in here now she's decided she likes it. I want this cage. It's mine. I'm taking it. I haven't even got the purchase hooked up in there. They're just kind of hanging. Couldn't get it through the door without disconnecting the purchase.
So
Yes,
Silva wants
Cecil.
to sit on it as well. Interesting.
Well, he got up there and started throwing the frisbees onto the floor.
Ah.
I had to get that off the floor because I didn't have room. It's the typical thing, when you have birds. So I got a new cage. I have to move things around. I'm probably going to have to start getting rid of some of these cages. Pippa would have a fit if I got rid of hers, but There are some cages. I have a whole 10 by 10 room full of cages. I got to get them out of there, and I got to see which ones I'm going to keep. Maybe a couple, and the rest of them I just need to get rid of them. Otherwise, I'll get an honorary badge from my third wife. And she's the one that when the garage gets full, buys another storage shed. And when that gets full, she buys another storage shed. And she was saying that one of her neighbors asked where something was, and she said, "Well, it's in that shed." And they said, "Oh, okay, never mind." Because she's like, "Why?" Oh, I'm not, I'm not going in there. So, but I've
Hmm.
gotten that way with cages because they are expensive and they're come in handy when you have a rescue or something. But I've got probably 6 cages I could get rid of,
Hmm.
not including what's in here. Most of these could be used for birds if they had to. Smaller birds, but
Hmm.
Pippa, I figured out why Pippa loved that cage. Part of ABA is constantly observing, right? She loves to walk around the top of the dome. So the new cage she has a bigger dome, and she seems to like that even better. So I could have
Well,
sworn
there
she
we go.
said, I
It's the
could have
perfect
sworn,
cage for little Pip.
yeah, I think, well, she seems to like it. She's not, when she was in a cage like that one, neck with that snowball sitting over her, she didn't like it, and you couldn't do anything to it. You couldn't put any kind of perch or anything. She just didn't like it. She wanted out. I don't want to be in here. She liked that one, which is the one that her former caretaker bought her when he brought her down here. So, well, not here, but
Hmm.
back
In
in
the old.
Fallbrook.
Hmm.
Seesaw.
So let's greet Falcon Sue and Jocelyn Gretel. Welcome, you both. Good to see
Hi,
you.
hi,
Hello.
guys. Glad you're here.
Looks like we got a little bit of entertainment today by Jasmine. She looks like she's going to make some trouble. I think the
Yeah,
last live stream was pretty calm, quiet when it comes to the birds.
yeah. She's being a little quieter because I yelled at her. She was going after a snowball, so I had no choice. But
And now she starts sleeping.
yeah, I'll
Snowball
take
is
a
a
nap.
cutie up there.
Yeah, he wants to play frisbee. That's why those frisbees are on the floor. He threw them down
Mm.
there and looked at me like, "Let's play. Let's play later."
Oh,
Okay, we'll play later. We will. Okay.
can you play frisbee with him while the other birds are in the room?
Um, the ones I have in here, yeah. I'm
Okay.
not so sure. I don't think that KK will get involved, but he's the only one I'm
Is
not sure about.
Oh, by the way, where's KK?
He's right there,
Oh, there
buried
he
next to
is.
me. He's buried next to me.
Mm.
He wouldn't take his medicine this morning. He's hiding underneath the paper. He makes a tent and he hides under it. So when I brought him out, he's like, "Oh, I'm out, I'm out." I put him on the couch and I gave him his medicine. He looked at me like, "This is
Yeah,
not
I mean,
right."
he was invisible and you found him, so that's completely unfair.
He's a trickster, this one. I take him out and I pet him, and I don't just grab him and toss him on the cart and stick medicine in his face. I take about 5 minutes with him to give him his medicine, but there's days when he just doesn't want to go through that routine. He'd rather come out and play. Now he sits on the cart at least at night when I'm making food, and then I've got Pippa on the perch in the kitchen and him on the cart. Cecil, it is difficult to pet two birds at once. It is with this phone in my hand. It is. He's grabbing
Oh,
my arm.
Cecil, what a good boy.
Well, first of all, what is the purpose of applied behavior analysis? You know, the word applied means you're going to use something, right? You apply something, and you're not just sitting around saying, "Oh, this is the idea," right? You're applying something. Behavior is watching what they do and analysis means that you're going to watch what they do and then apply what you know to modify that behavior to help them modify the behavior if it needs to be modified. You can't modify their behavior, not in a good way anyway. I mean, if you came at them with a chainsaw, you could modify their behavior, but that's not what we do. We try not to scare the birds or try to force them to do anything unless it's an emergency, and there are those on occasion, like the time we had the fire. But fortunately, they just took one look at my face and folded their wings in, and out we went. But, um, so the purpose of ABA originally it was a discipline created to work with autistic children, and it works with any animal though. But these guys are defined as functionally autistic. Nice tail flash there, Shug. And now we'll get the arguments. Somebody will come along and say, "Oh, well, they're not autistic, you know." This is functional autism. It's caused by missing steps in their development that causes them to act like autistic children. Good example is with Romeo. Got to put the chair down at night at a certain time of night. You have to call him over to a certain spot. Then you open the door and you talk to him until he comes halfway out around the cage door, and then you pet him, and then he puts his foot out, and then you take him and you say hello, and you step up and you walk a certain path to back here, and then you go, Rain Man. But he's the most functionally autistic of all the birds here. But so it was developed for that purpose, and but then they found out, of course, it works pretty much with everything. Um, so I hope that explains basically what ABA is. It's a set of tools and a way to look at the world. You don't say, well, my bird feels this. You don't talk about their feelings. You don't talk about anything inside because you can't get in there. If you can, let me know because I'd sure like that technique. But we look at their behavior and we work from the behavior to analyze what can be done to either improve their situation if they're having trouble or modify their behavior if they're eating the house, eating you out of house and home. Um, right now, Mander's got the name Homewrecker because he managed to get out of his cage, which he's never tried before. It wasn't that hard. He got out and he started chewing the molding on the wall. So now I call him Mander, Homewrecker. But it wasn't any major expense, but you don't want them chewing on things, so they could hurt themselves getting out. Now he can't. I have a big clamp on the door, so he can't get out at all, unless he decides he wants to break the bars. But he hasn't figured out he can do that yet. I hope he doesn't. So basically, ABA is the science of behavior change. Uh, so you see your bird's got a problem. It's exhibiting things like pacing in its cage or doing repetitive actions. It's like what you see in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay, and so you use ABA to change that, and you get them to make the changes. You're not doing it yourself. You're getting them to do it. We use both reward and punishment. Reward, is you give them something positive. You add something to their environment that they like. And with punishment, what you're doing is you're either reducing or extinguishing a behavior. So in one case, you're making a behavior with reward, you're increasing a behavior, right? But with punishment, you're reducing it. So these are specialized terms. We call them stipulative definitions, right? So it doesn't apply outside the field itself, but then of course, we have reward, punishment, positives when you add something, negatives when you take something away. So if you have, uh, I heard that sneeze. What are you trying to do? Be like Pippa? Hmm? You got to sneeze while you're in here? So if you take something away in order to reinforce a behavior, that would be negative because you're taking something away, right? But it's negative reinforcement because you're trying to increase the behavior. If you're trying to reduce the behavior and you take something away, then that's negative punishment. Those are some simple definitions, but our purpose is not to control the birds. I mean, we're not commanding them to do anything. We're cueing a behavior. And the difference is that we cue the behavior and we have worked with them so that they will do the behavior on their own. And it's not out of fear or compulsion. It's usually because they've been rewarded. And sometimes that's just petting them, you know? We primarily focus on reinforcement, but sometimes taking something away actually gets you what you need. So and then as far as punishment, sometimes you have to do something to reduce a behavior. So um, if you didn't want Chloe for example, if you didn't want her chew on the chew on the curtains, which she would do sometimes, and you could put something in the room. You could take something away that she likes. Okay, she has a particular toy that's right there. You could take it away, that kind of thing. And if she gets focused on the fact that you took something away from her, then she'll get away from the curtain. But anyway, now you can try other things. I mean, I have people tell me all the time, well, I do this and I do that. And there are things that aren't in the training bag, and sometimes they work. A good example is someone will say that my bird was screaming, screaming all the time. So I just started ignoring them. Once in a while that might work. So you may have somebody who gets away with that. We call that extinction when when you ignore it. Oh, you're going to make a mess again. See how you are. You put clean paper out and Cecil has to make a mess of it. No, and now KK wants to get involved.
Oh, you two troublemakers. Look at you boys. It's so
That's good.
sweet.
Good
So
they're
when we
playing.
interrupt, we can also say hello to Rosebud, who joined us and says hello, Float.
Hi, Rosebud.
We just came right in to see Cecil making a mess. And meanwhile, I also can read the comment from Giselle. Giselle says, taking cages apart are a pain, but sometimes worth it to store and save space. I have dog crates in every size in case of fire and evacuation.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. Um, I'd have to hire somebody to do that. I don't have time. I honestly don't have time to go in and take all those cages apart. Takes a while. Even with power tools, it takes a while to take them apart. And then you have to zip tie them together so that all the pieces. Done it. I did it to move. Did it twice. Ugh. But you're right. That is an option. If you've got time and people to help, it's an option. And I could hire temporary labor in for a day or two to do something like that, but it's an option. I actually would prefer these cages went somewhere that needed them, but not sure where that's going to be. Um, so when is learning going on? According to ABA, learning is going on anytime you're within earshot of a bird. If they can hear you and you can hear them, there's learning going on. So if you're in a room with them, there's definitely learning going on. Right now, Cecil's looking at me. He's making some kind of assessment. I don't know why.
I think he's looking at you, but also on the bird on the floor.
Yeah. He's looking at Snowball too, but
Oh, Snowball is on the floor.
yep.
Hmm.
He's down there playing with a frisbee. This is good for the hookbills. They get to walk around and grab things, and not quite as good as having a free flight area, but it works. And Cecil won't fly unless he absolutely has to, so he's going to climb around everywhere he goes.
Mm.
So you use ABA to guide their learning so that they do things by choice, and it's kind of like getting the husband to go outside and paint the fence, or you get your wife to go out and paint the fence, and they're halfway done and say, "Boy, you're doing a great job here. I'll get the beer in the refrigerator for you," that kind of thing. You don't want to reward them too much, or they might stop, right? So, but you're basically dangling a carrot. Although if you dangled a carrot in front of these guys, they go, "We don't eat those unless you cook them in a mash." So what we look at when we're analyzing what a bird is doing is, what are the environmental stimulus? Is any bird in the environment? Right now we got Cecil over here, and he's picked up one of the frisbees. Yep, now he's going to go over and yeah, Snowball showed some interest. He was looking at him, so Cecil went over to preen.
Oh, what
Now,
good
if
boy.
Snowball had turned away and walked away, it's quite possible that Cecil would have just kept playing with the frisbee. I've seen that behavior before, but obviously Snowball was giving him the big go ahead and come over routine. So you look to see and then you think about what happened before. If you had a bird that there was something like you made a bunch of noise and you disturbed the bird, and then 5 minutes later the bird's not acting the way it normally does. Well, what are the antecedents? What came before? Well, that big noise that scared the bird. So it might still be scared from what happened. Or the other one is where you've got the dog that you can't stop it chasing the cat that you just brought in. So you take it out to play with the ball. I've used this example before, but it's a good one. Until the dog is really tired playing ball and its tongue is dragging, then you bring it back in the house and take the cat out. And the dog sits there and like, "I'd really like to go after the cat, but I'm too tired." So there are things that come before, and sometimes you don't think about it, right? Maybe you always enter the room a certain way, and today you came in different, or today you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt for some reason, and you're seeing a different behavior. So we look at the antecedents, then we look at the behavior, and then we look what kind of consequences are happening from the behavior. And if the bird's chewing wood, chewing on something, well, that's a self-satisfying behavior. It's a primal behavior that the birds have. So it just needs to be fulfilled some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be your armchair. So if you don't mind your chairs looking like that, that's okay. But they will chew things if they're wood. So are you going to chew that now? Are you?
Giselle says, I'm making lunch as I listen, and Caesar decided to start screaming. I covered half his cage to block his view of me, and then after 5 minutes, when he quieted, I lifted the curtain.
That's good. You're rewarding them for being quiet. That's good. You have to be careful. What you did was right. If you do it too close to the vocalization, then you can reinforce it. So you want to leave a little bit of time there. But that's exactly right. Always ask, when you're doing something, what am I reinforcing? If you ask yourself that, then you won't make mistakes like the people who had Snowball. The lady who had him for a while, fostering him, her son thought it was cute that he would pick little spots on your skin because this is what they do. They clean each other, right? So they look for imperfections and then they will try to take them away. And
Mm-hmm.
that's so he thought it was funny. So he gave the bird a bunch of attention, gave Snowball a bunch of attention when he did it. It took me almost 6 months to stop that behavior. Once in a while, it'll come back. We call that resurgence. But I just go back to the same technique I used before. And so always think, what am I reinforcing? Because if you do that, it'll save you a lot of trouble. Like when he started nipping on my arm and I'd reached to get my attention, I started petting him. Oh, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's a mistake. So after that, I didn't do it. So when he would grab at my arm, I'd pull it away. And then one time he came over with his foot and he tapped me with his foot. He was just kind of like that. And then I petted him. And now it's like constant. He comes over and taps me whenever he wants to be petted. But he doesn't nip at me anymore. Except if he's down here in this one spot next to KK. Sometimes he'll get a little nippy, but otherwise he doesn't do that. And when I say nippy, he doesn't break the skin. He just uses his beak to kind of pinch your skin a little bit to get your attention. So if you think something's cute at the moment, think about what it would happen if you magnified it 10 times and it was happening all the time. And then, that may help you change your behavior. Because in order to modify their behavior, we often have to change ours. Right, Cecil? Right, KK? What do you think, Snowball? Hmm? Yeah, if there's one thing you can learn from ABA that will save you a lot in the future, it's what am I reinforcing? What am I doing that will make them, am I actually giving them a reward for doing something that later on I'll be sorry for? That's how you have to think about it. And sometimes it works just the other way. Sometimes it works the other way where you're reinforcing something you do want. So you see a behavior you want, like this one, I probably should. I can't do it right now, but because I've got everything in the way. But if I could put that frisbee back up on top, then he'll go up there and throw it down again, and I can get him back into tossing the frisbee more regularly. We've been so busy this last couple of weeks that I haven't had a chance to play frisbee with him. And he does like it. He'll get a little depressed if he doesn't get to play frisbee at least once, at least 2 or 3 times a week. So, so, for example, if you've been rewarding your bird for stepping up, and instead it tries to nip at you, well, you don't reward that behavior, right? And in some cases, here's where you have to be careful because you have to know your bird. If your bird nips at you, lunges or nips, and you put it back in its cage, it may like that. So put it somewhere else it doesn't particularly care for. Not someplace it's scared, but someplace that there's nothing to do, like in a corner on a perch where there's nothing to play with. Now it might just fly over to you, but it'll get the idea. Thank you, Cecil. That's just what I wanted to know. You wanted me to pet you, and then you're going to hit me with that while I pet you. What is the point of that? I'm not sure I'm going to reinforce that next time if you're going to start hitting me with that when I pet you. That's a good example. He takes his foot and taps me when he wants me to pet him. If I come over to pet him and he hits me with a toy, that's not really a behavior I want to start reinforcing. So that's where you start using the analysis. Well, what can I do? He's used to having me tap, the tap work. So if I don't do that, I'm going to get an extinction burst, which is just some random behaviors where they try to figure out what's going to fill in the gap. It's the old you didn't get the Coke when you put the money in the machine deal. And so if you get an extinction burst, you want to catch them when they're not going to hit you with a toy. So right now, I'm not. My initial response to this is if he taps me, I'm not going to respond to it, and then we'll see if we get an extinction burst. I hope everybody understands what an extinction burst is. It's just when you're expecting a reward and you don't get it, you'll try all kinds of things. We use it in training all the time too. If you've gotten to a certain point, training them to, let's say you're training them to take a little miniature basketball and drop it in a hoop. Not with that. Not with this.
Mhm.
See, he tapped me to
Tap,
get
tap, tap.
petted, and then I tapped that toy in his beak to try to highlight that he's not going to get petted if he's going to do something with that toy. See if he does it again. He's thinking about it. This is where he's going through an extinction burst moment. He normally gets petted when he taps me with his foot, but something has changed. He's trying to figure it out. You're smart. You'll figure it out. So this is a good example of how you use ABA, because most people, if they've got a bird that when they tap you, or whatever the behavior is, but he taps me when he wants to get petted, if he starts using a toy like a weapon on me, whacking it when I go to pet him, then I have to stop. And I have to regroup and think about what I can do to stop that behavior. So we're dealing with punishment here because you're trying to reduce or extinguish a behavior. In this case, I want to extinguish it. I don't want to see any more of that behavior. So I know I'm going to, by not responding to his tapping his foot on me, I could possibly start the nipping response a little bit again. He's going to go through a whole bunch of different things. But he might figure it out quickly. He's a smart guy, but right now he's pretty focused on that toy. So this is a good example if we can get him to tap me again. But I think he may have figured out that the tap does that. See, that's not going to get you what you want. No, that's part of that extinction burst. He's trying to get my attention where before he's tapping me now. And I'm going to tap the toy. Nope, tap the toy. This is ABA in action, folks. There's that moment of, I just put the money in the Coke machine and the Coke didn't come out. You can just see it. The wheels are turning.
That can be simulated by The Sims. No joke, you can, there are these vending machines, and then you put the money in, and with a 50-50 chance, or maybe less, a little less, is that your product, your order doesn't come out, and then your sim starts to get annoyed, and when it starts to beat against the machine or trying to shake it, or so, it can actually drop on you, and then you're dead.
Yeah, it's true. Well, there was some kid who climbed in one of those claw machines where you pick up. He climbed in to get something and got stuck in the machine. I read
Oh no.
about that. That's one of those that I didn't get the toy I wanted, so my extinction burst is I'm gonna climb in the machine. And then he was stuck inside of it. Yeah, see, this is the extinction burst. Now he's trying to hit me with a toy. And this is where the analysis goes on. How long he's touching me. Now, nope, now I'm going to tap it. See, he came at me with the toy, so I'm going to tap the toy and not pet him. I didn't expect that we'd actually have a nice example of it today, but we do. This is what I do all day long with these guys. And I deal with extinction bursts and different kinds of behavior, rewarding some, not rewarding other behaviors. You got to choose. As Lowell George said in one of his songs, New York, you Nork, you got to choose one. You either want to get petted or you want to hit me. It's not going to work both ways. You can't do both. And with Cecil, when he stops dead like that, it's a thought process going on. And I can't prove that they think, but it's pretty darned obvious that something's going on in there. Are we going to continue playing with the toy? I can't tell. Are we just going to keep playing with the toy? So at this point, it looks like he's given up on trying to get me to pet him. I'm about 90% certain that he's not going to tap me again while he's playing with the toy, which means that he may have figured out that that's the problem. And if he wants to get petted, he'll have to drop the toy, but we'll see. A good bird? Yes, you are. You are a good bird. Yeah, this is actually better than going through all the basics and talking about it. You see it in progress. He has stopped the tapping, so he's come to the realization that he's not going to get petted if he taps me. And I think he understands the toy has something to do with it.
Falkenster says, I can almost hear the wheels turning inside Cecil's head.
Yeah. Well, when you get into these go ahead. Sorry.
Giselle says maybe he wants you to take it. So.
No. Somebody wants me to get bit. He is highly defensive of his toys. Once in a while, I'll play tug of war with him, but you've got to be careful because he doesn't like to bite you, but he will hold onto his toy with a death grip. And his beak is much stronger than my fingers are. So, but you can hear the wheels turning, can't you? I think at this point he has decided that he's not going to tap me and hold the toy. So I may have won this round, which simply means that we've made an agreement that he's not going to hit me with the toy if he wants to get petted. And I may have to work on this a couple of more times, but I think we're getting there. Because he's not doing that behavior anymore. He's hitting me in the face, but that's normal. So. And he's not going through that extinction burst because he's not sitting there, just with that kind of blank look on his face. That's what he's thinking. So he's not doing that anymore. He's just gone back to his play routine. So I will bet, I would probably win the bet, that eventually he'll drop the toy and want to be petted. Right now, the toy is more important, and he's made that choice. So I'm basically giving him a choice on behaviors. You can play with the toy or you can get petted, but you're not going to do both. You can hold the toy and I'll pet you, But if you try to move that toy at me or lunge at it when I go to pet you, then I'm going to tap the toy, and that's going to be it. And now from here on out, if that behavior comes up, I have to tap the toy twice, like I've been doing it. Don't try different types of no. You know, find one thing that you're telling the bird that I don't want that behavior, and stick to it. I thought my earbuds would last. Well, they have almost. One of them's dying right now. I was in a cleaning mode and I got in here a little late. What are you doing? He caught me with my attention somewhere else. No, my attention was somewhere else. He's smart. So he tapped me. And I did the automatic. What I'm supposed to do now, if he's got a toy, is tap the toy. Yeah, he was waiting for me to get distracted because I'm easily distracted, aren't I? There's that look again. The wheels are turning. But you see how he used that my distraction against me? I hope this is getting through how you work this stuff. He tapped me, so I'm tapping the toy again. It's a big extinction burst for him because he's used to getting petted whenever he taps me. It's not happening.
What a good Cecil boy.
Beautiful song, Jazz. Beautiful song,
Jasper.
Jazzbird.
Jasmine, you're more awake than probably in the last 5 streams together.
Yeah, she likes being over there in that cage. I'm going to get it open and hang those back up, but I didn't have time.
Do you think she wants to put herself into timeout?
I think so, and she wants to go in there, but those perches aren't attached. I couldn't get it through the door because they have those knobby plastic wheels on them. So
Flap, 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 flap.
pretty song, Jasmine. Cecil's doing it again. Cecil, how many times do you want me to tap at that? There goes the foot. Got to be consistent. You've done everything but raise a flag, you know? If there was a flagpole, he'd probably raise some kind of flag, a pirate flag on it right now. I want to get petted, but I want to. Oh, he's changing now. He's going to do that, so he's probably going to stop hitting me with it. We'll see. I'll give him a chance to tap me, and I'll pet him if he does it. Because when he's not playing with the toy, when he's doing his chewing gum thing, they make their own chewing gum. Don't give your parrot chewing gum, of course. I think everybody knows that. Well, I was going to go through. We can go through the rest of the stuff I was going to talk about on the next live stream.
Yeah, we just got a donation from Jam and Jamie, so thank you very much. He wishes happy Wednesday, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Jam and Jamie. Yeah, there we go. They move things around and I get lost in
They
here.
do.
Thank you so much. No, we don't do the advertising now. If I make a small video and I'm not paying attention and I make it in portrait mode, then YouTube will steal it and they'll put ads on it. But if you see any ads, just skip them. We don't get anything from them anyway, so just skip them. So I skip every ad that comes on when I'm watching it on anything on YouTube. So what are you doing? You want to say goodbye, KK? You want to say goodbye? KK the bird.
What a cutie. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming and chatting and watching. And we hope you will have a good rest of the week. Right, Chuck?
Thanks,
Yeah.
we love you.
Thank you, Amy and Eleanor, for moderating. And we're going to go sailing into, well, wait a minute. You going to do it? You going to do it? Good girl, Jazz. Good girl.
I think it's filtering the Jasmine sound. And at my end, I just hear gluck, 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 gluck.
Yeah, same. I don't hear the actual beep, 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 beep. I just hear glug, glug,
Shame on you, StreamYard.
I don't know. There's no way to fix that. I think that they automatically cut out the
That's the
sound.
thing. And it's really weird when they think you should put your micro on and when not. Because when I put the micro off because I have to cough or something, it's always like, oh no, you put the micro off, the people can't listen to you. Yeah, it's on purpose because I make noise, not saying anything. Oh, and poor Jasmine is making such a sweet song and they just filter it. That's unfair.
Yeah. Well, we can make the song. We can go beep, 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 beep,
beep, beep, beep, beep, beep, beep, beep, beep.
beep, 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 beep.
Jazzy, one more time. One more time. Jasmine.
That was Sunny.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sunny did it.
That was Sunny. That wasn't Jasmine.
That works. Well, thanks, guys.
Peace,
We're out of here. Bye.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.